different ones. Like,
Good. All right, and we're live?
we are live, we are good to go.
Perfect, so we'll call to order at 5:30 and start the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, proof of notice.
Notice was given.
Notice was given. We do not have any public comments tonight, so we will move into committee reports. We were unable to have PPC due to the power outage yesterday, so only looking for an update on the finance.
Yeah, so we had our meeting the 10th. Everything is going well, everything looks normal. We ended up with a decent sized surplus, and I know Patrick will talk more about that, and Matt Schwab and I and Patrick talked more about the memo that Patrick put together, so we are fully behind that and do recommend it. I know one thing that Matt and I both asked about was this approximately $25,000 expense we send to Arrowhead for the private pay bus transportations, and that is for students that go to private schools that we are legally required to bus, but it would be more than 1.5 times our rate to bus them, so then they get reimbursed for driving their kid to school. So that is not for students that attend our schools. Yeah, that was a big kind of kick that Matt and I both noticed. But
Is
other
there
than
any
that-
action item there, or?
No, it was just, it was just an expense that we both questioned that we wanted to look at
It's
and.
the one that's still comparable to every other year, right? It's not like we had a big increase or.
No.
Correct, we just had never
It
really
just,
knew.
it ebbs and flows with the number of students in our district
Yeah.
attending a private school. But the statute says
We have to.
we have to provide transportation, but if the cost exceeds 1.5 times what a normal cost per pupil would be, we can offer them basically a parent contract, which is a cash in lieu.
Yeah.
And then, so Arrowhead is, as the fiscal agent, then takes care of sending those out.
Understood.
That's it.
Okay, thank you, Morgan. We will move on to the consent agenda items. We have the monthly voucher and purchasing card report, the minutes from June, employee personnel report, and annual board approval of academic state standards for DPI.
I don't. Man, sorry.
Yes.
I didn't think we take it out, but can we just get a, for the standards, is this something every year that we send in?
Yes, we do, and I actually had, Morgan actually reached out and asked the same question, so I'm gonna go ahead and clarify that for the whole crew, I thought I grabbed it. Basically, and I think, Sarah sent a memo also kind of explaining the understanding that DPI has the state standards. And, it's good to have guidelines and follow those state standards. And every year it's up to school boards across the state to approve these state standards. Everybody sometimes gets confused about local government versus state government. So it's really important to highlight that the state standards don't tell us how to teach or anything like that. They tell you kind of what to teach. They don't tell you, what curriculum to use, just these are the standards and concepts that you need to know at certain grade levels. You all have done the work, like I said to Morgan, the STEM and the portrait of a graduate and our social studies and our science. You do the work to make sure that what our students at Hartland-Lakeside are getting what you all in the community wants them to receive from that, following those state standards. So every year we just have to approve it so that the state knows that we are following those standards. And then anytime we have any changes in curriculum, we obviously always bring them forward to you. Fair? Okay.
Awesome. So with that said, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any additional?
So moved.
Second?
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Alright.
Who acts as the clerk, by the way?
Gretchen will do it off the,
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure, like, wait a
off
minute.
the video.
Look, you're not the clerk, you're the VP.
I still think it's just in case.
Just wanna make sure.
Alright, up next, we'll move forward with the superintendent report.
Yes, thank you. We kind of were talking a little bit before we went live about our awesome summer school summer splash and great attendance and excitement. And yes, we did have a power outage yesterday, but we made the best of it and had great adventures and it was a lot of fun. So we're in our final session, our final 2 weeks, and then we have band camp. And that's a steady flow of people coming in from all over this area, so it's not just Hartland-Lakeside students, it's band students or students interested in instrumental music across all theaters, and we host that. So it's the first time we're hosting it this year, and we're very excited to do that. So kudos to everybody out there with those pieces. I want to talk really quickly, not really quickly, but a little bit about transportation updates on arrival and dismissal times. We do have a letter ready to go out to families. There's that fine line between is it too soon or is it too late? Are people gonna be looking for this email or are they gonna wait? So we're hearing back and forth a little bit. Here's the catch on this one. Our times are close to what we originally said. We have an exclusive riding busing system now here for Hartland-Lakeside. That's got its positives and its not so positives. We'll talk about that and work through that. But for the listeners, the audience listening, we don't have the pay to ride because we don't have exactly where the bus stops are yet. So that's what the catch-22 is with sending this out, because sending the times out is gonna trigger people to say, but what about pay to ride? So please know that we're gonna just say, we don't have the routes. As soon as we get the routes, we'll let you know. But here's what we're doing for the schedule. So we've really worked hard with our principals and Greg and the busing company to try to get it to a place. I know one of the concerns people had was that it was not gonna be enough time, and it was just gonna be so cramped. It probably still will be for the first couple weeks. It always is, and just trying to work out those kinks. But what I will say to you is that at North Shore Middle School, the morning arrival time is 7:30 a.m. The buildings will open to students. At 7:35, buses will drop students off, and at 7:40, first period begins. The afternoon dismissal is 3:05 dismissal with a 3:10 departure for buses. That's at the middle school. Then we're gonna go over to Hartland South, the morning arrival. 8:20 a.m. time is the buses will arrive and the school doors will open. So only buses will be arriving at 8:20. At 8:25, the buses will leave for Hartland North. We are asking that carpoolers, walkers, and bikers arrive between 8:25 and 8:35, and school will start at 8:40. Okay.
That's similar to.
Very similar to
Yeah,
now,
okay.
very similar to right now. And then from there, they're gonna go to Hartland North and arrive buses, and school doors will open at 8:30. Carpool and walkers will go 8:30 to 8:45, and then the start of the day is 8:50. So you'll see how there's a definite 15-minute delay between the two buildings. Most of our families that have siblings are going between north and south right now. So that's kind of where we're at. And then in the afternoon, dismissal for the buses will load at 3:30 at south and depart at 3:35. Carpoolers, walkers, and bikers will be dismissed between 3:35 and 3:45. And then at north, parent pickup will begin at 3:30. So you'll see what we did there, right? Parent pickup first at 3:30. Buses don't arrive to north until 3:40, and they will depart by 3:50. So we're trying to make sure those designated arrival and dismissal windows will help keep traffic moving efficiently and ensure the safety of all of the students. So we're really looking forward to a great year and our start and stop times and building openings. So watch for this communication coming to you by the end of the week. And then as soon as we have the routes and the process in place, hopefully we're gonna add it to registration so that anybody who wants to pay to ride is able to do so through that portal. More to come on that. So we have that figured out. I wanna talk a little bit about open enrollment, just so that we kind of have an idea of where we are within that realm. We've looked at our numbers, we keep having our conversations, and it's looking very good for open enrollment. A lot of conversations surrounding on what does success look like. I know that's been a conversation that we've had, and now as we go into year 2 of our strategic plan and portrait of a graduate with our STEM work, all of the pieces, there's a lot to measure, having done it for a year. So this next year, we just talked this afternoon, is really about measurement and measuring success. We will be providing to you, likely in August or September, each building has 3 strategic goals. One surrounding literacy, one surrounding math, and then the third one is of their choice that they feel. So some of them are behavior, others are based on other pieces. They include things like a 3% growth in 3rd grade reading at grade level, or you know what I mean, things that are very, very measurable, and they're very excited. Once we have each of their buildings, they're working on them now with Sarah. Once they have those put together, we'll combine them to create the district goals. Because then they're all kind of aligned and talking to one another. So we're excited about the work with that. We also are looking at the portrait of a graduate and how that expands this next year. Not just the pillars or the themes that we have, but how do you measure it? How do you know that we're doing what's best for kids, and that our climate and culture and all of those pieces are really being felt and not just spoken of. So more to come when it comes to that piece. We've got transportation, we've got open enrollment, summer school. I think that's good. I did have another piece on there, and there's a little sneak peek on clubs, but I don't want to steal John's thunder, and having not gone through PPC yet to kind of practice that presentation, I'm really excited about the work. There isn't anything more important right now for kids than for them to be involved in after-school activities and clubs and all of it. When he first came on board, there were 7 clubs or activities for after school. Starting the school year, there will be 15. And if you'd had the opportunity to peruse through what they are, they're really fun and things that students will be interested in. And our north and south staff are going to follow suit. So Dave and Heather are working on creating their own sites to highlight each of their clubs. And of course, there is a process to go through to ensure that the clubs align and that we have enough student participation in all of those pieces, because they are paid. They are paid clubs, so we want to make sure that we're hitting all those marks too. So lots of exciting things happening in Hartland, and it's been an active but also very, I think, relaxing summer. I think people have gotten to take some breaks. We've gotten to know some new employees. We've had some really great hires. We're really thrilled about that and looking forward to the new school year. So thank you.
How many open positions do we have? Are all our teachers teaching positions?
All of our teaching positions.
All teachers are filled.
Nice.
We do have a couple, we have a behavior support specialist role that we're hiring for. We have 2 health room aides, and then we're gonna post very shortly for a couple paraprofessionals.
Cool.
So good stuff all around.
All right, moving forward with the Director of Business, Business Services report.
Yeah, so, Finance Committee met, as Morgan alluded to, on the 10th. June's a very, it's a busy month, but a slow month at the same time. What I mean by that is, we disperse a lot of funds, but they're mostly payroll. Because anybody on a teacher contract receives 6 paychecks in June. Two paychecks on the first payroll run covers the June payrolls, and then they receive 4 on the second June run, which covers July and August payroll. That has to do with our fiscal year ending 6/30. Make sure those funds are recorded in the correct fiscal year. So significant dollars go out the door in June, even though the volume of transactions is fairly light. We ended the month in a cash position of about $300,000 in our operating checking. Operating savings at about 5.32. Capital improvement at 1.79 million. And our North Student Activity Fund, still working to clear that out, is about 8,000. In total, we ended the fiscal year ended June at about 7.41 million in cash position. Like I said, volume's pretty light as far as transactions go. Most of it's summer school and payroll, and then some operational expenses for our building and grounds team. But not a ton of ordering. That'll pick up pretty quickly here for the school year. Did you guys have any questions on the monthly finance report?
No, good to me.
Okay. Capital improvements updates. We had 3 major projects that were slated to be completed, and all 3 are completed. Pavement looks great. Everything's complete, striping, repainting of lines, playground, 4 squares are all repainted in the spots they want them. Everything looks really, really good. If you haven't had an opportunity to look at it, it turned out really, really nice. And it really just updates the look of all 3 of our buildings. And it's something that we can check off and say, we don't have to come back and worry about that big ticket item for several years to come. The dishwasher went in, that's all completed. They ran into a little bit of electrical issue, but they were able to troubleshoot that and get that done. And then the library carpet over itself, all done. Library is just getting put back together now. Books are getting moved back in, but everything's painted. Carpet looks great. So all of the projects turned out really, really well. Everything came on budget except for the paving. They needed slightly more base, so we were about 8% over budget, just based on when they did their proof rolls. There was just areas where we can't put anything down until we get this solidified. Unfortunately, there's a little bit more sand there than we thought there was, but they quoted it at 50% base, so we knew there was a chance that we might need in some areas. So they were really good about putting only base material in the specific areas. They even hand dug some areas that were like, hey, this area is kind of sinking, but this area very close to it's fine. We don't want to go in here and with a sledgehammer if we can do it with a scalpel. So everything turned out really well. Any questions on capital improvements for 25-26?
So my question is, obviously we talked about putting together a committee and a plan.
Yep.
Talk about those things that are there, and it's been a very hectic July for schedules and connecting.
Yep, it's still on our to-do list.
Yeah.
I really want to get our first meeting before the July board, or before the August board meeting, I should say.
And I haven't heard anything, so to say it's no one has reached out yet and said they were interested.
No, nobody.
I was thinking the same thing. There's a
So
great opportunity.
anybody, any community members that have a background in the building trades, engineering, architecture, things that you could bring your expertise and add value to the capital improvement committee. Really what the committee is tasked with is taking a look at a site study that we had done by Findorf, looking at what our contractor reports look like, and then prioritizing the work to be done, putting that into a 10-year plan, and then really figuring out, like I said, prioritizing what is our top ticket and what's number 2 or 3, and then scheduling the work based on kind of how we see that plan playing out.
And we've got a copy if someone's interested in it, we could show where we've gotten, and
Yep,
what we're looking at.
we have a current plan.
Right.
Yep, it's
So
just we're in the process of updating the plan.
On
And
HVAC, whether it's flooring or.
Yep, and if anybody's interested and they just want to reach out and ask some questions, I'd be happy to answer the questions or get you in connection with our Director of Building and Grounds if it's a question I can't answer. But we would welcome that community input.
Have we ever thought about, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Have we ever thought about reaching out to the chamber? Because we're chamber members, right?
Yeah.
To see if anybody in the chamber of commerce.
So as you're sitting here, I'm thinking, and I'm sure Gretchen is too at home, thinking about, okay, we can put something out on Facebook and we
Yeah.
can put something out through that portal, that won't be a problem. So yeah, I just actually just.
Yeah, when we were at the Biz and
Right with
Brew
you.
last
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, I was like,
It's a good idea.
oh, because there was a plumber there, and I'm like, oh, wait,
Maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah, if there's any general contractors, anybody in the building trades, like I said, we would
Yeah.
definitely, I made a note as well, so we'll check that avenue.
I think Chris had more.
Oh, just a couple, just to share with the agenda, since the topic that's there, we had a power outage here recently.
Yeah.
We had a failure of stuff with food was affected last year, none of that was affected this year with the power outage, so I did get that question.
We actually were really judicious on how we used our food stores, and that walk-in freezer, not what I was trying to say there. That walk-in freezer isn't even running this summer. We were able to shut it down and defrost it
Oh, nice.
because we didn't have a bulk store of food that had to be that was gonna sit this summer. So we were able to use it up and keep our stock pretty low and run a little bit leaner towards the end of the school year.
And then the other thing, just as a topic that comes up on that, down that line would be maybe a generator at some point in time that might pop up as well, so
Yes.
throw it out on
Even, I have, earlier this year, I was kind of in connection with, Merton has, sensors, an automated sensor system, so even if we didn't have a generator, if we could at least be notified of not just freezers, but different components within our systems. So that's something we can look at as well.
I'll piggyback on that as well as Chris, you and I kind of talked about it yesterday. Chris Dillon and I talked, he said, all right, I've heard enough about the generators and the batteries, maybe it's time for us to talk about hardwiring directly to the generator. Ironically, there is some emergency lighting, so like the bathrooms, and then there were a couple of lights that would light up, but we were all like trying to assess the situation yesterday and they were going off, and then they'd pop on, and they'd go off, and we're like, what is happening? Greg, our director of buildings and grounds, was actually on the roof going, what is happening, why is, it starts and then it stops and it starts and it stops. There was a leak in the coolant, so that when he filled it with the coolant, it stayed on, and so then he called and said, okay, we gotta get this looked at. Well, then they decided at that time they were gonna try to have somebody take a look and how they could, at the very least for the servers, for IT. So all of these things are absolutely right. And then when we were talking about it, Chris is like, well, I can try to find money. He loves to try to find money. He's always looking. I said, I know he is very good at it. I said, this is great timing, because even though those reports that came out of Findorf are saying we need to do this, this, and this would fall as probably a priority for our board, I would guess, over some of those other items, because it happens in real time. So all of those things, I think it's great that you bring these things up, because we're always like, oh, it's Hagelin, right? And then here it is, we've got Hagelin's things.
Oh, wow.
No, not
Now
that,
you know how I feel.
No, but so it's good, and I appreciate that you have that lens and you bring that forward, because we don't always think that way. Yeah, so it's good. The other thing I want to just mention that I did mention at finance that I think also falls under this category is we were talking about consolidating buildings, if that ever were to be a thing, to figure out what our space is, space utilization, I think report is what it was called. I was like, sure, we can do that. We talked to an organization a week or two ago, and the price to do that study is between $50,000 and $60,000. So I tabled it for now, just because we're not really sure where our budget is and what we have going on. And I'm gonna be at the legal conference next week. There will be more people that I can talk to and see if I can't find maybe a happier medium. I was thinking it was maybe 10, not 50 or 60, but maybe I'm super naive when it comes to buildings and grounds. I don't know.
But that's not even to do any work.
Yeah, they do. They have to come in and measure.
Well, I'm sorry, I know
Time.
there's work, but I'm talking like construction work.
Oh, yeah, no,
Like
not
there,
yet.
it's,
yeah, it's a
Well,
lot,
it's
it's
either
a lot of
that or
analysis.
either that or you give them all of the, any work you do after that, no bid.
yes, that's right.
Like
That's what you were saying,
yeah,
is you either pay the high fee for the report, or you pay
Then
a
you
decently
sign
high.
a memo of understanding saying, you're our contractor of choice going forward, which is not a good deal for the district.
Right.
So just want you to know we are doing our due diligence on that as well.
Thank you.
So that takes us to Fund 46 transfer, kind of budget surplus position at the end of 25-26. We ended the year with approximately a $585,000 surplus. I think the actual number is like 588 and change. I'll kind of break down, I know you guys have seen the memo and the memo's attached, but I'll break down a little bit of what contributed the most to the surplus. The first things first is that 585 is not truly a full surplus, because we had budgeted 250, well, originally 350. So it's truly, if you look at what was budgeted originally, it's about a $235,000 surplus above and beyond the Fund 46 transfer that was budgeted. So I just want to clarify that, because the number does sound very large. But it doesn't take into account the transfer, because obviously that transfer hasn't happened yet. The main really like 5 or 6 areas that contributed the most were employee wages, employee benefits, purchase services, non-capital objects, which is basically supplies, consumables, things like that, and then insurance premiums. Employee wages contributed about 58,000 and change. The primary driver in that, and that was about 1% off of budget total. Because that's our biggest, one of our biggest expenses is employee benefits and wages. The area where we saw kind of the biggest variance was in our support staff, our operational support staff. We had some turnover in some positions, and we had some positions that were empty throughout the year. So obviously if you have an empty position, you're not paying an employee. That contributed about 23,000 of the overall 58. Employee benefits contributed about 39,000 in total. The bulk of that was the budget for our Family Advantage Health Plan. And one of the things we have to do with our Family Advantage Health Plan is we have to make an estimate of how much utilization our employees are gonna have. How much services are they gonna go utilize that they will be reimbursed for? There's no exact science to do it. I always budget high on something like that. So we ended up the year with about 25,000 in surplus funds in that budget area. Stop me if you have any questions throughout this too. The next area that really was the most significant driver was purchase services. It was about $134,000 under budget. A large majority of that, in excess of 80,000, was technology spending. And the reason for the 80,000 had more to do with supply chain constraints and pricing. When we normally go to purchase a Chromebook for student issue, historically we had been paying about $300 a unit. Quotes were coming back at about $420, $425, about a 40% increase. There's a chip shortage. If you read the news, you probably see it. Data centers are really, they're sucking up the supply. And from what our director of technology was telling me, he said this is worse than COVID as far as pricing and availability. Even if he could find Chromebooks, it was like, if you don't take them, this quote is good for 4 hours. If you don't take them, we're selling them to somebody else. So what we did in response to that, instead of purchasing the same amount we were going to purchase at a vastly increased per unit price, we bought about half as many as we normally would have. And the reason for that is twofold. One, we've obviously got supply chain issues and pricing constraints. The second is we are taking a deep dive and looking at what is best practice for our youngest and earliest learners in our one-to-one environment. During COVID, we went everything one-to-one for obvious reasons. There's a lot of research out there and other factors that show maybe those younger learners should not be using technology as robustly as our older learners. So we're taking a step back and we're gonna look at how are they being utilized currently, how do we want to use them going forward, and possibly going to more of like a shared device model where, hey, we've got a cart of 30 units or devices and it's shared amongst the grade. I'm just making that up, but that's something along those lines would be an example of one of the things that we're considering. So that's a big chunk of that overall 134 and change that we didn't spend. Additionally, one of the other big drivers was our subbing costs, which I thought it might happen. I was happy to see we were about 19,000 under budget on our external substitutes, which makes sense because we did put building subs, district employee building subs at each building. So that came in under budget. And then non-capital, which again, most of which is supplies and materials. There were two areas, operational supplies and instructional supplies. Operational supplies finished about 11,000 below budget, and instructional supplies were about 14,000 under budget. In total, non-capital was about 69, so there was other factors, but those were the two largest factors that made up about 25,000. The last of those areas was insurance premiums. And we were under budget by about 18,000. And the two main drivers of that 18,000, work comp, and unemployment compensation insurance. Work comp, we got a really nice dividend on our work comp based on our experience mod, and the fact that we had very limited claims. So we had a $10,600 surplus for work comp, workers' compensation insurance, and then unemployment compensation, due to lower than anticipated actual costs, came in $6,000 under budget. So those were kind of the biggest budget drivers that led to a surplus of about $235,000. That takes us to the use of that surplus, how we want to utilize those dollars. During Finance Committee, we had some really good conversation, and as a committee, we kind of walked out of there with a couple recommendations. The first being honoring our original budgeted amount to go into Fund 46, which was $351,223. And then the remaining $234,000 would be used as in some way, shape, or form to give back to our staff, and not just because we want to, but if we look at what our other feeder districts are doing as part of their compensation plans. They offer different bonus structures that we don't currently utilize. They offer longevity bonuses, bonuses for certain roles within their districts. So in some way, shape, or form, we would love to be able to give some of that dollars back. Obviously, we know there's going to be broader discussion amongst the full board, but those are kind of our general recommendations. The only one that's time sensitive is the Fund 46 transfer. The Fund 46 transfer needs to be approved and actually transferred prior to July 30th. So that would be the item that we would have to take action on tonight. And we can continue the discussion how we want to utilize the other surplus funds over the next coming weeks and months.
Mm-hmm.
I know I just talked a lot, so what questions you guys got?
Non-capitals include some of the subscription changes that we had as well, service agreements and stuff like that, that was in there?
Those are gonna be, typically your service agreements are gonna be in purchase services.
Okay.
Yep.
Have we had any surplus in recent years?
Last year we had about 600,000.
Okay, what about the year before?
I'd have to look.
Okay.
I would, if my memory serves
was
me,
a
it's, yeah, it was pretty close to that.
To another 500 or 600K too?
Yeah.
I am, at least from as we discussed this piece of it, all for moving what we agreed to and talked about moving that over to the Fund 46. And then the consideration allocation, if that's moved to another conversation through the committee and all those things that are going on. I know there's different things with the new bus scenes and everything else going this year. I just wanna make sure that we talk about all those before we make that decision.
Absolutely.
What those things are, but as long as those get brought into that conversation, you're right, that recommendation comes back to the board in a month.
And I mean, we can, not to interrupt, but I can, obviously that's not time sensitive. We can do that in a month, we can do that in 2 months, we could do that mid-year if we want to. It would go into fund balance for now, but we could utilize that fund balance however you as a board sees fit.
Not that it couldn't go to where it's being, I just wanna say that out loud, obviously there's things that are there, but I just wanna make sure we have a little bit.
100%, that's the
Absolutely.
responsibility. I mean, there are busing pieces, there are, you know, we just started a new STEM program, a portrait of a graduate. What I will say, and I would be remiss if I didn't, we wouldn't have those great programs if we didn't have the incredible staff that we do. And so from that lens, I would say that would be the piece that I would push for, or advocate for.
And the other thing I'll say is it doesn't have to be a kind of a one size fits all. We could, as a board, you guys, I shouldn't say we, you guys as a board can decide to use some of that, all of that, none of that.
We'll bring things forward to you
Yeah, and so-
with some assessment.
Yeah, so I was thinking I'll bring some ideas to Finance Committee, what it could look like. And then we can share that out at the next board meeting, and then you guys can have more discussion when the full board's here.
Yeah, exactly.
So tonight we're looking for a motion to fund the 351K to 46, and then we'll table how we're gonna allocate the 234K at a later date.
Correct.
Well, then, if that's the case, I have a motion to approve the transfer of the $351,223 from the 25-26 operating surplus to the capital improvements fund, that's Fund 46, with the transfer complete by July 30th, 2026.
I'll second.
Alright, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
That is all I have for you guys. Thanks for your support.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
consideration, I appreciate that also.
Alright, so coming up next, we have the agenda item request procedure, so we already have policy 0166. This is just trying to mature that process. Good governance, in my opinion, is consistent process, making sure everyone's operating on, same guidelines, same playing field, etc. I know this has come to the meeting a couple times now, it's gone to PPC.
It was at PBC and we never get a chance to look at it again.
We didn't, oh, that's right,
Because
that's
of
right.
maybe out. But, sorry.
Okay. Do we, this isn't really changing anything.
It's not a vote, it's just.
Yeah, it's not a vote, so it's just, this is what we're gonna move forward with using.
Cool. I think there are some concerns with that in the order, and I know it's been voiced by a couple others, so as it's not a change in policy, verbatim what's on there can be used and what's there, but there are some questions as to short-term versus long-term, or how multiple times coming in or going out. I just think it should be a fluid document until everybody signs off on it and has that conversation with it, but getting to that point, I think makes sense.
What's the concern still?
So if there's something to be on the board, or you're asking for something to be added at a new item, you get able to have that chance. But if there's another secondary, hey, this wasn't considered, do we have any more interest in it? Maybe there's a secondary piece of it that would be this document would fit very well for. So the question is, what line does that draw? Still keeping the board president as the first line and then second.
So like this would be like an
Comes with
appeals process, almost like?
Exactly. So that was the questions that were kind of brought up to it. Unfortunately, like I said, we didn't get to talk about it in the meeting based on whatever the 0166 agenda and the additional add-ins are versus that piece.
Mhm.
So obviously any request to be that was on there, whether the use and the governance of it, maybe we just want to fine tune it to make sure everybody's on board with using it the same way.
I'm fine with that. Yeah. I don't wanna get stuck on that, it seems like semantics, but I have no problem waiting either.
So currently, if I wanted to add something, I either say it during the new future discussion thing on B, right?
Right.
Or like as it stands right now, if I were to say, hey, Matt, I wanna add something, I either do it during the board meeting and then it goes to him to decide for next month?
And administration
Correct,
decide what goes on there, but if something were to
Or-
be added for any reason, this would be a good appeals process for that, they say, is there enough interest to talk about it at the.
Well, that's what the signature is looking for,
Right.
right? Like, you're not looking for approval, it's just, hey, this is worth talking about at the board.
So would you need to have that for the first?
Oh, so instead of, so like if I didn't say anything tonight and I said, ooh, tomorrow, I wanna add something, I should fill out.
The question
The question.
is that right away, or is that something you would then first start with the initial request, and it's
Okay.
a secondary piece of follow-up?
Just reading 0166 right now, it just seems
It's
like
very, very broad.
it's very broad.
Yeah, so it doesn't,
In my
specify
opinion,
any
you
of
would
those.
just use this form for everything.
I think what you're saying is that second person approved, like saying, hey, I agree that maybe we should talk about this, maybe that's what you're saying?
so then the question is now, is it even in the meeting itself, right? Because then now you have to have these pieces of approval before it's talked about and conversated, or if it was a new business or something we talk about in the future.
Well, that's gonna be for next month anyway.
Right. But then, if it's taken up does it need to have the paperwork or that, so there's a first piece or a second piece, or is it only this piece of paper that we're gonna move forward?
Got it.
Okay. So, in my opinion, you have the time for new business during the meeting, and then if an item comes up after the meeting, you use the form.
Which things make sense. And so if we roll this out, once again, this is not a policy that we're doing, this is
Right.
just a
Procedure.
procedure inside being requested that's there, so we could always ask everybody to use that part of it, and then fine tune it along the way.
Yeah, so just make it simple, if you don't bring up new business during the meeting, use the form.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And, you know, again, this is your process, right? I want you, I want everybody to be really clear on that. But, I also remember, you may recall, this was like 8 pages before, it's down to 2. So it's just I kind of tried to take what we gained from the PPC meeting as well as the last board meeting, and all of your thoughts on it and tried to condense it. We are gonna make it electronic, because I think that was also a recommendation, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And so then you all will just have the link to that, just make sure that you're able to fill it out as you go, it'll be a form, okay?
And
Just so everyone else knows, like we're working on, like Tina's working on like first of every month, like we're setting some milestones for every month as well, just so we know when all the agenda items are coming out, when the supporting documents are coming out, so there's no, you know, like obviously there was an outage and maybe that impacted yesterday or the day before, but like, you know, we just wanna be able to have expectations that we know what's coming and when it's coming. So to that, like, you know, let's start getting, definitive times for all the committee, I can't talk either, committee meetings, policy, I don't know if there's a set day and time yet, I know we've been bouncing around finance, I believe there is,
Yep, we have ours.
Yeah, we're very consistent.
Yeah,
and that's what, 9 AM on
8:30.
8:30 on the,
8:30, Thursday,
usually on the
10,
10th.
on the 10th?
like that
So maybe
second
let's try
Monday,
and
I
do
think
that
it
one.
is.
Usually the
Policy.
second.
We'll have something here, but we were hoping to get it all done yesterday, obviously, but we'll get one the next, by the end of the week and have it scheduled.
Awesome, man, thank you.
Is it always on the 10th of the month, you
It's always
guys?
the second
Usually the second
Monday
Monday.
usually,
Second Monday.
because that gives Patrick enough time,
Yeah.
hopefully, to do his stuff.
And it's, yeah, typically it's the second Monday. That gives me enough time. Just to do some month-end stuff before I provide them documentation.
Okay, that helps me, and then we'll figure out PPC and you'll let me know kind of what you're thinking.
Yep.
For a consistent time on that one, okay. That just will help us, from an accuracy and consistency level too, I think that'll be really, really good. Okay,
Alright, so with that, we basically just discussed the next section as well, so the PPC meeting, I still can't talk. Committee meeting is to be determined, finance committee meeting is going to be August 10th at 8:30 AM. And the next school board meeting will be August 17th at 5:30 PM.
for the school board meeting, August 17th, I do have a bit of a workshop. Can we start at 5 o'clock by chance? Or is that pushing your time? Otherwise, we'll start at 5:30 and do the workshop, that's not a problem, but I wanna give you guys a little bit of an insight on our special education and the data that we're analyzing for the first time in a long time, from a different lens, and then also bringing Sarah Blankenheim in and seeing how that all connects. And they're really the experts in the room, and we had a great meeting the other day, and I thought this would be really good for you guys to hear and try to understand a little bit more on. We can start the workshop at 5:30 and the board meeting at 6.
I mean, I would love to start at 5, but I can't speak for the Chris's either.
Mondays are a little rougher to get back by
Oh, they are.
5:30, I know I can make, but 5 is.
Are you comfortable then with a 5:30 workshop and a 6 o'clock start?
Being our annual, I know we move a lot of stuff later in the year, but it's kind of been that August is when we really look at those new year financials things, is that a lot of the meeting? Or do you think it's going to be normal?
Let me just take a look here. Shouldn't be too bad.
When is the annual, is in September?
Yeah.
And who had the action item with the annual, moving that date?
You did.
It was me, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it was
I did not do it.
somebody's birthday?
Well, yeah, I'm looking to move it for
Right.
that, but there was a question.
We had to see if we
Could it be
could
moved?
Because it was set by the community
elect, yeah.
Right,
versus
okay.
the board.
In August, the annual calendar items that we have are seclusion and restraint report, annual health report, preliminary budget approval, preliminary discussion on Village of Heartland Community. That's not something we have to do anymore. We're good there. That's all I have for our August annual reports.
Nope, then. Let's see, look at what we did last year. Yeah, no, I don't think we didn't discuss any budget in August, it was all in September last year.
Yeah, we had the
'Cause didn't we
annual
have-
meeting and budget hearing. But I wonder if there's question regarding, didn't we you said something about 3 different kinds of marks for the budget, creating 3 different budgets, or is that for the October meeting?
No, that would be, October you gotta approve.
September was the
Annual
annual,
Yeah.
which then would be a couple
options,
During the meeting portion, not the annual meeting.
Right, correct.
Yep.
Cause depending on what they
So
vote
with all
for.
that being said, and I don't mean to get us off topic there, sorry, I apologize, I think 5:30, we should be all right then. Because if it was gonna be sooner, maybe we would think about
Yeah, I don't think we'll talk much budget in August, I'll have some updates for you.
preliminary numbers, but nothing
Yeah,
that's gonna be
nothing, there's no action, I think,
digging into
no,
too much unless we find something, obviously.
yeah.
Thanks for putting me up on that there, that time.
Yeah.
So 5:30 for the workshop.
6 o'clock.
And is the workshop a closed workshop or an open workshop? If people so happen to choose to want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any of our workshops are closed, they're all
Okay,
Facebook,
I just wasn't
it's just
sure.
not on video,
Okay,
that's
so the meeting
Yes.
portion will start at 6.
yes.
Cause I know sometimes people will ask, oh, well, when can I give a public comment? When do I need to be there?
Right.
So 6 o'clock.
Alright, with that, if we don't have anything else, I'll be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn at 6:19 p.m.
Second.
Alright,
Oh, cow.
very efficient.
Nice job, friends, nice job.
appreciate it.
Are we done?
Close.
Are we on?
Yeah, I don't know if we're off.
I feel like that light is still on, which indicates that either we are on or we are off. So that's something really intelligent.